For a very long time, we have pictured our ancient cousins, the Neanderthals, as simple, brutish creatures. They lived across Europe and Asia for hundreds of thousands of years, surviving harsh ice ages and hunting enormous beasts. In our minds, they were often depicted as hunched figures, communicating with little more than grunts and gestures. This image was powerful, shaping our understanding of human evolution. It placed Homo sapiens at the very top of a ladder, a species uniquely gifted with the power of complex language. The idea of the silent Neanderthal came from early interpretations of their fossils. When the first skeletons were studied in the 19th century, scientists saw heavy brow ridges, large noses, and robust, powerful bodies. Their skulls, though large, were thought to house brains that were organized differently, perhaps lacking the sophisticated wiring needed for speech. This image of a primitive, non-verbal hominin persisted for over a century, becoming a common trope in books and films. It was a simple, compelling story, but as we are now discovering, it was a story that was profoundly incomplete and ultimately quite wrong. One of the most extraordinary clues to Neanderthal speech is a tiny U-shaped bone called the hyoid. In humans, it's in the neck, and it's unique, the only bone not attached to another bone. It's anchored by muscles and by ligaments, and it helps with swallowing and, crucially, speaking. It supports the root of the tongue and the larynx, the voice box. Without a hyoid shaped and positioned like ours, modern human speech movements would be impossible. Then, in 1989, a breakthrough came from Kebara Cave in Israel. Archaeologists unearthed a well-preserved Neanderthal skeleton about 60,000 years old. Nestled where the neck would be was a hyoid bone. The scientific world was stunned. Analysis showed it was virtually identical in shape and in size to a modern human hyoid. A powerful piece of evidence. But critics pushed back. They said a similar bone didn't prove identical use. Maybe its position in the neck differed, producing a different range of sounds. Later, sophisticated computer modeling helped. Scientists made virtual Neanderthal throat models, placing the hyoid using fossil context. The models simulated muscle function and ligament behavior. The results were astonishing. The analysis showed the Kebara hyoid wasn't just sitting there, it functioned biomechanically like ours. That tiny bone stopped whispering and began to shout. The story of Neanderthal speech does not end with bones. In the 21st century, we gained an almost magical tool, the ability to read the genetic code of creatures extinct for tens of thousands of years. By extracting ancient DNA from Neanderthal fossils, scientists compared their genetic blueprint with our own. They searched for genes linked to language and speech. One gene stood out, FOXP2, often called the language gene. An oversimplification, but useful. In humans, rare FOXP2 mutations cause severe difficulties. Problems understanding grammar. Problems coordinating the fine muscle movements of the face and larynx for speech. FOXP2 plays a critical role in language. The question, did Neanderthals have the same FOXP2 as us? If they had a primitive, chimp-like version, complex language would be unlikely. Researchers raced to sequence this part of the Neanderthal genome. The results were a bombshell. Neanderthals had the exact same FOXP2 variant as modern humans. This was stunning. The gene wasn't a recent Homo sapiens-only innovation. It was ancient, from a common ancestor over 500,000 years ago. High-resolution CT scans of Neanderthal skulls produced three-dimensional virtual models of ear structures. Tiny middle ear bones, delicate outer ear passages, made it possible to model hearing. It sounds like science fiction. They could calculate what the Neanderthal ear was best at hearing. The results were astonishing. Their bandwidth matched modern humans. Their ears were tuned to the same channel as ours. This gives a crucial link in the evidence chain. Anatomical proof, hyoid bone, genetic proof, FOXP2 gene, auditory proof, Neanderthal hearing. The pieces fit together. With evidence for the physical ability to produce sounds and the auditory capacity to hear them, the next logical step was to try and figure out what those sounds were. Using the same detailed virtual models of their vocal tracts, larynx, throat, nasal passages, scientists could now simulate the production of sound. By running these models through sophisticated acoustic software, they could begin to reconstruct the range of sounds a Neanderthal could have made. The research indicated that the Neanderthal vocal range would have been similar to that of modern humans. However, there were subtle differences. Because of the shape of their throat and the large size of their nasal cavity, their voices were likely higher pitched than the deep guttural sounds we often imagine. The model showed Neanderthals could produce all the same sounds that form the basis of modern human languages today. While vowels provide the power and volume for speech, consonants provide the clarity and carry most of the information. Beyond the biological evidence, the archaeological record paints a life too complex for silence. Consider their hunting practices. Not simple scavengers. Apex predators. They hunted some of the largest and most dangerous animals: mammoths, woolly rhinos, giant cave bears. To bring down such prey requires cooperation, planning, communicating strategy in real time. To the left, now watch out! Their toolkit included specialized spears, tools for butchering. This suggests teaching and learning. We also see evidence of symbolic thought. In caves across Europe, pigments like red ochre, possibly for body painting. They collected eagle talons, shells, worn as jewelry. These are not actions of a creature solely concerned with survival. Perhaps the most poignant evidence comes from how they treated their dead. We have found Neanderthal skeletons deliberately buried in graves. The act of burial itself is profoundly significant. So, if we accept that Neanderthals could speak, the next fascinating question is, what would it have been like to have a conversation with one? Based on reconstructions of their vocal tracts, we can paint a speculative but scientifically grounded picture. Their voices would likely have been somewhat different from ours. Higher pitch, more nasal quality. The content of their language would have been shaped by their world. Plants and animals of Ice Age Europe, different qualities of flint for tool making. Words to teach a child how to knap a stone tool. Words to tell stories of a successful hunt. Words to mourn a lost companion. The development of language is not just about exchanging information, it is the very glue that holds a society together. In small, close-knit groups, language allows for the resolution of conflicts, the reinforcement of social norms, the creation of shared identity. It allows individuals to express empathy, to comfort one another, and to form deep, lasting relationships. Language is also the primary vehicle for culture. It is how stories are told, how myths are born, collective history remembered and passed on. This transmission of culture lets a society build on past knowledge and innovate and adapt over time. Complex speech enables cooperation otherwise impossible. It creates collective intelligence, combining many minds to solve hard problems. The old image of the dim-witted, grunting caveman must be discarded forever. In its place, we must sketch a far more nuanced and far more human figure, a skilled hunter, a toolmaker, a being with symbolic thought, and a speaker of a complex language. They were not a failed experiment in evolution. They were a highly successful, intelligent lineage who thrived for hundreds of thousands of years. They were our equals in many ways. Their minds were not so different from our own. A parallel humanity, walking a different path, a human path nonetheless. The fact Neanderthals could speak makes their eventual disappearance more poignant. When the last Neanderthals vanished around 40,000 years ago, it was not just a species that went extinct. It was a world of thoughts, stories, and ideas. A whole library of human experience encoded in a language we will never hear, was lost forever. Ultimately, the discovery of Neanderthal speech enriches our story. The Neanderthals were not a silent prelude to our song. They were singing a song of their own, a different melody in the grand, complex, beautiful chorus of human evolution. And though they have fallen silent, science has at last allowed us to hear the echo.